Good morning, everyone. Children, excellencies, colleagues and friends. A warm welcome to this high-level parallel event on child rights. It is an intergenerational dialogue. It is organized by the Initiative for Child Rights in the Global Compact with the support of the governments of Greece and Norway. So thank you very much for your support. My name is Daniela Reale. I am the global lead for refugee, migrants, and displaced children at Save the Children, and I co-chair the Initiative for Child Rights together with my colleague Caroline. A couple of words about the initiative. It is a multi-stakeholder partnership of over 30 UN, civil society, and philanthropic organizations. We are working together, we've been working together for many years now, with the aim of ensuring that children are at the very heart of the Global Compact for Refugees and Migration, and obviously at the very heart of this process on the Global Refugee Forum. We have developed and coordinated the Child Rights Pledge, which is here. And we are delighted that so many countries and stakeholders have really embraced this pledge. We are counting 84 so far today. Caroline will talk to you a bit more about the pledge in detail, but let me first thank and welcome our moderator, who will chaperone us through this event, Dr. Najat Majid, the UN Special Representative of the Secretary General on Violence Against Children, a champion for the rights of displaced children for many, many years. So thank you for your support. And let me just extend a big thank to the children who are here today. We have 4 children. We have Sophia, we have Maxime, we have Naya, and we have Sidra. So thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate all the time that you put to be with us and the effort to prepare. And I would also like to thank the over 430 children that we consulted with across the world. We consulted in pretty much every region of the world, 11 countries, and we spoke with them, and they had very, very, very clear messages and questions, and they want answers. And this is, just off the press, their call for answers. So please have a read. It's all their voices. We haven't said anything in this. This is just what they are asking us to do. And they're very concrete things, you will see. So without further ado, let me hand over to my colleague Caroline, who will walk us through the multi-stakeholder pledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So my name is Caroline Horn, and I work with Terre des Hommes as the head of campaigns, and I co-chair the initiative together with Daniela. We are really excited by the number and variety of pledges for children that have been announced so far at this second Global Refugee Forum. 84 pledges and counting, and we're really, really eager to hear more announcements today. So the Initiative for Child Rights in the Global Compact started thinking about a bold pledge for children after the first GRF, when commitments to children were honestly few and far between. And throughout 2023, we've held global and regional consultations and discussions with adults and children, including with many of you in this room today, to develop the final pledge that you see today. So the Child Rights Pledge is really intended as a home for all the commitments with and for children. And it outlines key priorities for action, which have been identified together with children themselves as areas of need and where we think that concrete change can really be achieved in the next 4 years. So these are 1, child protection, 2, child participation and empowerment, 3, protective education, and 4, access to services, including healthcare, mental health support, and social protection programs. So as I said, we're really looking forward to hearing more pledges today. We encourage more pledges linked to the Child Rights Pledge, and we encourage you to pick up a copy of the pledge in the room, and you can also find it on the GCR website. You'll also hear a bit later today about our own pledge as the initiative, which you'll have a copy of in the room, where we pledge to convene all those involved in the Child Rights Pledge twice a year over the next 4 years. So thank you once again for joining us, and without further ado, I hand over to Najat.
Thank you.
Many thanks. Daniela and Caroline, it's always a pleasure, you know. You don't make me young because we are working, you know, on this issue since so many years. I just want to tell you, to all of you, welcome, and to tell you how I am happy, really, to play the role of facilitating, you know, this intergenerational dialogue with wonderful, wonderful children, very innovative, very creative, very resilient, and despite all the challenges they are facing, they are still here and reminding us that they are existing and their rights are existing. And I am happy to have Naya, Cedra, Maxime, Sophia, and Paisley that I just met. So really very happy to have you on board, and happy also to facilitate this dialogue between many key champions here also and many key advocates for children's rights. I just want to very quickly let you know that, you know, Children on the Move, it is one of, you know, I am the special representative of the Secretary General on Violence Against Children. And Children on the Move, all these children displaced, and Gillian will highlight it, I am sure, again, we are seeing an unprecedented scale of, you know, children displaced because of war, because of climate crisis, because of widespread violence. You know the reasons more than me. But what we are seeing also, that we are more and more restrictive migration policies, and we are, many, many children are seen, you know, as irregular or as are illegal. And another point, the big challenge is how we can make sure that their rights, all their rights, the protection, but all their rights, because they are interconnected, as highlighted in Child Rights Pledge just presented, really are moving with them. Because what, for me, my key message, these are children, they are first and foremost children, and the status of children have to prevail on the migratory status. So without further ado, I am really happy to facilitate, and one big important point for me is really to make sure that children are seen not only as passive recipient of services, but also really as wonderful key actors and part of solution. Right. And to hear from you, and before, you know, giving the floor and facilitating, I just want to set the scene. And because as highlighted by Caroline and Daniela, there is a video, you know, a manifesto done by children. So we'll see the video, and after I will give the floor to Gillian Triggs. But we start by the voices of children.
أولاد وضعهم منيح فيني يروحوا على المدرسة. في أولاد مثلي أنا ما فيني يروحوا على المدرسة. ندفع دواء أخوي عشان إنه هو مريض وعشان ياخد الدواء. وصرت أشتغل إنه برا، صرت أبيع محارم وماي عند الإشارة عن مفرع المخيم. إنه أشم هواء، بيكون الهواء ملوث بسبب إنه الدخنة اللي بيطلعوها من سياراتهم. بصير أسأل حالي إنه أنا ليش هون، ليش عم بيع، ليش ساكنة هون، إنه ليش إنه هيك الوضع اللي عنا إياه. فإنه بتصير إنه بزعل وبعصب وهيك شيء. في ولاد كمان بيمرقوا من الشارع، بيصيروا يقولوا إنه أنتي عم تشتغلي، مثل كانوا عم بيشبهوني بإنه شحادة وبلدك مش هون، ارجعي على بلدك. فإنه أنا ما برد عليهم وبكمل إنه ببعد عنهم. وهذا الشيء أثر علي كتير.
مشاكل ما أهرم هم تري إنه آب مصدري جيانية هم نزان كي قافي السرما شاوتن وما هي المستشفى ده يعني نا فحوصات هنا نا سونار هنا.
Considero que el machismo es una de las problemáticas más grandes que tengo dentro de mi comunidad, porque si bien existen espacios que permiten el diálogo y la participación femenina, muchas veces es cuestionado y juzgado. Se sigue viendo a la mujer como objeto o como símbolo de debilidad cuando tenemos el poder y tenemos el conocimiento tal cual como cualquier otra persona.
You can see where the boys are sleeping. You look at the environment. Construct for us also the dormitory of boys so that they can stop sleeping in this area of classes. Provide also scholastic materials for helping ourselves in school. A lot of girls have been menstruating but there's no way of helping them. We help them in skills of making arts. We can also develop our school in the process.
فإنه بعد ما إنه فتت إنه على المركز وبلشت إنه أداوم فيه حسيت إنه مستقبلي فيه له أمل إنه حقق اللي بدي إياه. التعليم سلاح للبنت فيها تحمله وتدافع عن نفسها إذا كانت متعلمة وواعية.
بگمان يعني شعور هيكي قال هيكي خوش انه يك هناك ناس اهمية بيفاز لما بدن قوي خو بدنا مشاكل ما وان بحاولين وان مشاكل ما هي.
Going to summarize this, but I just want to highlight some points. You know, fear, anxiety, lack of hope, and mental health issues, lack of access to services, and the big risk, I think, and I met, you know, during, you know, my country visit, children who are living in camps for many years without having any perspective on the future. So I hope that the pledge are not going to be only on paper, but really translated in very, very concrete action and very, very quickly. So without further ado, I give the floor to my dear friend, Gillian Triggs, you know, the ESG of UNHCR regarding child protection, and I had the pleasure to work with you and really to appreciate your strong commitment. You are a wonderful champion of children's rights. Over to you, Gillian.
Thank you, Najat, and we have worked over the last few years together through COVID, doing it virtually, but now wonderful to be together to speak about this thing that we care about so much and to have you here with us, but most particularly to have the children. We've heard from them by video, but we're now going to hear very shortly what the children have to say. And this is the first time UNHCR has been able to do this. It's the first time we've ever had children come to add their voice and to make it loud and clear and clear to us all. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you, if I may, to Greece and to Norway for supporting this initiative. Greece has been remarkable. It now has one of the world's leading approaches to supporting unaccompanied minors as they arrive as refugees, asylum seekers, people seeking international protection, and we hope that that model can be replicated. And thank you to Norway, always such a strong supporter of UNHCR for very many decades. You're steadfast and you stay with us, and we hope that we'll continue. Thank you too to the Initiative for Child Rights in the Global Compact. You've been remarkable in organising this event, but also to organising all the consultations during the regional efforts to pull this together, and you've given life to the voices of children, and I think it will help to drive the campaign and the initiative in the future. So thank you for that work. We're really over the moon at 84 pledges for children. The first GRF in 2019 was a start. We had some acknowledging the plight of children, But what was really the lesson we learned from 2019 is that it's one thing to make a unilateral pledge, but it's quite another to implement that pledge. And what we needed to do was to match people up, to form groups that would be able to assist each other in giving these pledges real life and to implement them in practice. And we feel we've made great progress in these last 4 years, and this pledge around child rights being the home for the pledges, I think will help us over the next few years to give them implementation. So thank you all very much. Well, what I'd like to do, of course, is to thank the children for being here, but to emphasize the voice of children, because they are better able than anybody to tell us what it is they need. And I'd like to mention just some of them through the voices of children. And one, of course, is when we speak to children, one of the first things they'll mention, and we've seen it in the video, is the importance of education and access to education. And these are the words of Abdul Wali, who's 17, and he said, "Children get a better life through the right to education. Children must learn and not work. Children must be able to understand the world. Children want to learn." And we've heard that from the young girl selling tissues at a traffic point. I will feel different about passing traffic points in the future to make sure we can support those young people trying to work. But I would like to share a personal story, if I may. A few years ago, I was on an island in the Indian Ocean where refugees were being taken for an attempt to find international protection. And I met a 12-year-old girl. And I asked her what her story was, and she told me that she was in Somalia, that her parents had been murdered in front of her. She managed to escape, but she had an aunt in Kenya with a little bit of money, and with the support of people smugglers, she found her way from East Africa through many dangerous countries. She described the journey that she was on leaky boats with people smugglers, the sharks in the water, the animals and the threats that she was subject to. And she finally arrived in the Indian Ocean, where she was picked up by a national boat and taken to the island. She was on the island for a year with no access whatsoever to education as a 12-year-old. And she described her life to me with great composure, great maturity. She described it in modest language, but that was what she had suffered. But when she told me that she had no education and no access to education and no expectation of an education, that is when she burst into tears. And I thought, isn't it interesting that at 12 she knew she could suffer all those indignities, losing her family and the travail that she had in trying to get to safety, but she knew instinctively that if she didn't have education, she had no future. She would never be able to realize her potential. And that made a very big impact on me, and I hope one day to catch up with her and find out where she is now, and I hope it's a better life. But the second point that I wanted to raise about children is they often speak about the need to be safe. And this is Ragda, a Syrian refugee aged 15. She said, "We're living in fear, anxiety, and tension, and we're living in deprivation of safety, deprivation of peace. There's bombing, and the sound is very scary. It's shaking the houses. Many people are dying. Houses are being destroyed." Only peace can really protect children. And that is why at UNHCR we're working so hard on what's called the Humanitarian Development Nexus. The third point that I'd like to raise is children understanding the importance of family and the community. And we've heard again in the video of a young girl recognizing the importance of support from communities. And here's Saddam at 16. "We should live together with friends and family because that's good for our brain, and then we can live happier lives." And finally, and fourth, they spoke of children's ability to participate and to contribute to the decisions that are made about them. And this is a 17-year-old girl who said, "We've recognized several critical issues within our village, but articulating our concerns has proven to be challenging, as our status as juniors often mean that our voices are not given due consideration. So can I conclude by thanking you all for the work that you do? Thank you, Nadia, but thank you to the children, and I very much look forward to hearing what they have to say, to hearing their voices, because that can help drive the policies that we adopt in the Refugee Agency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gillian. So without further ado, we'll start our first intergenerational dialogue, and I will start, if you allow me, with Naya. Marhaban, Naya, who is a refugee from Syria and actually living in Netherlands, if I am not wrong. So just based on your experiences, on the challenges you face, what do you think, government and other key stakeholders should do better, more, or differently? Over to you, Naya.
Hi. When I was 7 years old, I fled my home country, Syria. You'd think when I arrive, I will be feeling safe and relieved because I am finally safe. But I wasn't. I actually suffered a lot mentally. In the moment of the war, there was too much going on to even think about being fearful or anxious. So after I arrived to the Netherlands, it became very hard for me. I started having nightmares, and I was afraid the war was going to continue there. I thought everyone was after me. This is how a child views the world. We don't see things as political conflicts, what's safe, what's not. We look through the lens of our feelings. This is why governments should give more attention to mental health and psychological support for children with a refugee background. Thank you.
Thank you, Naya, and I will continue on it because you was involved in all this consultation with children and youth, and I just want to hear from you, what are the key findings from this consultation? Over to you, Naya.
So there are 4 important issues, namely child protection, access to services like mental health care or healthcare, child participation, and empowerment. Children are very clear. We ask that all of us can feel safe and protected, no matter where they are and where they are from. We want to be treated with care, respect, and dignity. Also, going to school is very important, but violence and discrimination is a big problem. They had a concrete suggestion, including training teachers to improve their communication with children, also with the children who discriminate the others, and to support them all through their tough problems. Many children said they want to access the mental health services as well as I said. Lastly, and most important, children want to be listened to and taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you a lot. I hope that all people are noting what is needed in a concrete way, and because it's not only about sentences, it's about translating into services that are easily accessible to these children. And I turn now to Cedra. Marhaban wa ahlan. Another wonderful, empowered girl from Syria who is living in Canada. And I know that you are a big, champion regarding participation. And I just want to hear from you regarding, what you think about your experience regarding, supporting child participation and mainly child participation of refugees. Over to you.
Thank you so much for that question. And hello, everyone. Can I get a hello back? Thank you so much. I want to start with this. I looked around at all the events that I went to at the Global Refugee Forum, and I didn't see young individuals. I didn't see kids being represented, and youth very much are not represented in these high-level spaces, which really upsets me because I know that they hold so much potential, they hold so much creativity and so much passion to change things in the favor of refugee children their age. So in this event, we, probably the only children at the Global Refugee Forum, are going to be representing the billions of kids and youth across the world. So please listen closely. In 2019, together with my younger sister, we started an initiative called Elegant Art, which at the ages of 11 and 9 years old, and it was meant to help refugee children in the power of art. And I know what you might ask, well, why art? But we thought art is a very, very powerful language because it transcends all language barriers, and you can communicate through a piece of art to people all across the world. And me and my sister started this initiative off by drawing pictures that represented the hardships that Syrian kids go through in refugee camps, because that's where we come from and that's our focus at the moment. And then we turned those canvas artworks into postcards that are 100% plantable, and they have wildflower seeds in them, and you can plant them. And we use the selling of these postcards to donate what money we have to the Mulham volunteering team, which is our partners in this initiative to help refugee children with this. And our hopes as Elegant Art is to help Syrian refugee children, which is our current focus, but also to expand and help children all across the world. And another way I'm working towards making an impact on refugee children development and participation is through the book I've been writing for 4 years now. And this book really highlights what my family went through and all the hardships that kind of make you wonder how we smile on a daily basis. And through the telling of my story, I'm not only mentioning what my family went through, I'm mentioning what so many children went through as well. And you cannot imagine how much I've reached out to publishers, to writers, to people to promote this book. And they all said, "You're a youth, how can I trust you in writing an entire book in good quality?" But I say not, because I want to prove that youth are capable of writing and publishing books and are capable of telling stories that will change lives. Thank you so much.
You are doing it very well, Cedra. So just to let you know, I think you are convincing the people who are, I think we need her to convince all the reluctant states, very frankly, regarding that. Anyway, I have another question for you regarding, the fact, how, based on all what you was telling, what we can do, or what government can do, what other key stakeholders can do differently or do, really to make sure that you are seen, heard, engaged, while you are protected. Right. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Another wonderful question. As a child refugee, I fled my home country, Syria, to Turkey, and I never knew what it was like to be protected, because my family tried to seek help at our very lowest points in our life journey from government officials like police officers, judges, and other adults. And we were waved off and told, "We are refugees. We don't deserve to be in safe areas," because that's where we came from, not safe areas. So at such a young age, can you imagine how horribly I viewed the world? Do you know how hopeless I felt? Why did all of these people in positions of power have to be so heartless? As a 6-year-old, I checked the window of my house every day to make sure that armed people, were not coming to kill us again. As a 6-year-old, I checked on my dad every night in his room to make sure that he's sleeping soundly and he's not covered in blood again. And as a 6-year-old, I prepared myself to be sent back. Sorry. And I prepared myself to be sent back to the war zone I came from, because that's what was happening to all the other refugee children I knew at the time. And I just want to say, how can adults tell me I didn't deserve safety when I did not choose to be a refugee, and neither did all of the refugees out there? We did not choose to leave our whole world behind. Who in their right mind would leave everything that they found was a perfect life and go and choose the suffering? I don't think anyone would ever do that. And my story, and I'm sure the stories of other young refugees, also showcases the perfect example of how we do not have adequate policies set around the inclusion and protection of refugees, especially child refugees around the world. And these policies need to be followed, not just set for show. All of you here and all of the adults of power need to gain my trust again and the trust of all children who were waved off and not protected as well. So in order to form these policies that truly highlight the needs of refugee children in terms of protection, you need to go to refugee-based areas and refugee camps yourselves and hear the words of those young children who have stories to tell, who have things, who have needs they want you to highlight. And conducting a survey taken by others and not really hearing those stories yourself is not going to cut it. I think it's more about you yourself going to these areas and listening from these young children. And I think this is the best way you can get the unique perspective of refugee children. And we need to change our ways. And we need to stop the negative experiences like mine from happening to all these children out there. And we all have a right to a peaceful childhood, so why did kids like me have to spend it hiding under the bed to avoid the sounds of bombs? Or why did kids like me have to wait beside the front door to make sure that my parents got home safely? I think we need to change our ways together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Cedra. I think you deserve not only safety, you deserve our, respect. You deserve so many things. And really, thank you so much to bringing us all in where you are living. And I can tell you, I think this I never forget, and I told it in all places. We are in some case killing people, not physically, but when you are seeing the light in the eyes of children switched off, it's too late. And I met many children. So I hope really that this has not to be seen as a side event parallel to the big decision, but to be embedded, in all the decision and the pledges. So many thanks to remind us that. And now I will switch to the adults, but the adults under the fire of children, a peaceful fire. And I will start by, I know that you have to leave, Mr. Andreas Motzfeldt-Kravik. I hope that I pronounce well. And as highlighted in the beginning from, you are State Secretary from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And as highlighted, you are a strong supporter of the Child Rights Pledge, and you are also co-sponsoring that event. So without further ado, I will give, to Cedra again and to ask you the question. Cedra, you have the floor.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Sorry, is it this one?
No,
I apologize.
because we changed this. Adults,
yeah.
we are not very consistent.
Yes, so to Dr. Mala Majid, right?
No.
Oh, sorry,
wish I was a
sorry.
doctor,
I am
but
so
I'm not.
sorry. I apologize.
Well, you can
Yes,
ask
I'm
whatever
sorry.
question you want.
Thank you so much. To Mr. Andreas Motzfeldt-Kravik. Sorry, I hope I pronounced that right.
Perfect pronunciation.
What can donors and governments do to support children and their families with livelihoods and addressing economic vulnerability as a key element for protection, integration, and access to durable solutions? I'm really looking forward to hearing your answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let me, I have lots of bullet points, but I just want to, let me put those to the side because I think the things that we saw on the screen and that you have now been alluding to in your statements have been so powerful and so important for us to try to address. So first, let me just thank you for your participation and for everything that you've said and for everything you've gone through and how you've been able to internalize that and to respond without being angry, without being agitated, but being constructive. And I think that's a lesson for all of us to really be inspired by. So thank you to both of you. I'm not going to talk too much about what we're doing. I can say a few words because I think sometimes what happens is that governments, they tend to they tend to come at these events only talking about all the wonderful things they're doing, and at the same time we see children dying on the and being deprived of their rights on the screen, and the mismatch is just difficult to tolerate. So I want to try to be a little bit more humble. You know, I think we should just acknowledge that we're not doing enough. And I can say that protecting children, protecting kids is a core priority of our foreign policy, something that we try to internalize into all our policies when it comes to how to approach what's happening now in Gaza, in Ukraine, in Sudan, when we allocate our funding. I think it's sort of a through line in our foreign policy, but at the same time, obviously, we're not doing enough. Obviously, we're not succeeding. So I think that's something that we should recognize. I think, first and foremost, I just want to take a few moments just to acknowledge, you know, this wonderful event, because one of you, I think you alluded to the fact that very often we have these discussions about the importance of prioritizing children and having children be heard without children being present. And it's incredibly paradoxical, whereas now this is a much more I think, appropriate way of conducting our business. First, you had the video, then you took the floor, and then I'm now being sort of held accountable through a question by you. And I think that's exactly how we should do things. And it's interesting because I've been deputy foreign minister now for since August, and my wife, she always says that I work too much. But every time when we see pictures from Gaza, she says, "Go back to work. You need to do more. This is not good enough."
I love your wife.
Yeah, she's pretty tough. But I think, and I kids, you know, I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and you know, so the problems that they're faced with. My daughter was angry because she got gloves in her Christmas calendar. You know, she wanted candy, and you know, so, and when I hear your concerns and the things that you're grappling with, I mean, it's just, you know, the world is so unfair, and you know, the inequities that we're seeing are so prominent, and we just have to do better. Just a few points, and I'm not going to be able to respond with any. There's no magical things I can say in order to address what you're bringing up. But I think one of the things that we should at least acknowledge is, one, what we're seeing now is not good enough. So your advocacy is appropriate, and it's something that you should continue to do. And you have the full support of our government. Number one. Number two. Sometimes you'll hear children advocate for, you know, for safety, for education, for protection, for justice, and it's being perceived by some as a nice things to do. But in reality, these are obligations on the part of governments. Yes. You know, so these are core international legal obligations that we have taken upon ourselves. So no government can say, yes, we'll come back to you on this. You know, no, we have an obligation. And when you are treated the way you were treated, that's in fact a violation of international law, as the special representative has been saying on multiple occasions. So I think holding governments accountable through advocacy, like you're doing, is also vital. And we want to be an ally in that effort, because again, these are in fact human rights violations. These are international humanitarian law violations, and we just need to be unequivocal about that. And these are bleak times. If you look at the conflicts now on the Gaza Strip, Ukraine, Sudan, other places, Afghanistan, the through line here is that children are disproportionately affected, and all sensible people understand that that's just not something that we can tolerate. It's unconscionable. It's, you know, we talk about, you know, fighting impunity. We talk about ensuring accountability, but we're not doing good enough. So that's and the societal consequences are incredible. Yes. Because the same, you know, look at Gaza. So when this conflict comes to an end, that society will have to be rebuilt. Same thing in Ukraine, same thing in Sudan. And who will have the responsibility to rebuild those societies? It's very same people who are scarred by those hostilities. So it's unfair on so many levels. Norway we have a close partnership with some of the NGOs that I think are present here. The ICRC, we have the Save the Children. We have, let me see, UNICEF, I think. So it's and something that we really prioritize. And let me just say two more points, then I'll finish. One, we recently organized a conference in Oslo together with the said organizations where we, that for the purposes of discussing how we can do a better job in terms of protecting children in armed conflict. I think that's a topic that deserves our full attention, number one. Number two, events like this, also a topic, also a form of choreographing our meetings, which is something that should really be a yardstick for how to move forward in these things. And number three, we need to allocate more resources. We're proud to pledge $9 million, approximately $9 million to the UNHCR for their efforts in terms of protecting children. So that's our pledge. It's a small contribution in the large scheme of things, but it's another way of us trying to indicate that this is a core priority of our foreign policy. So let me just finish there and say thank you again. You're so inspiring. Yeah, I don't know what to say. We will do better, I promise. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think it's music on my ears when I am hearing government telling that they need to be accountable. So because it's a word that is not very, sufficiently used, and many thanks for being that. So we need to clone you. This is very important because very frankly, and also it's humility, and I am very frank regarding that. But you have another question because you love to be accountable. And this is now for Naya. Over to you.
Yes. So I had a question because we children are often overlooked. Our contributions and views are not taken seriously.
Yeah.
What can decision makers do to make sure the needs and contributions of children are integrated in the refugee responses?
Thank you very much. Another excellent question. I'll be short in my response because I think we're short on the clock. But just to say, I think I touched on this in my previous response. It's essentially that events like this, crucial, because you have an ability to address the international community, the states. You can hold them accountable, and I think you can remind states that states responding to the needs of children and incorporating the priorities of children into their domestic and foreign policy decisions are in fact an international legal obligation. It's not something that we do to be nice. It's something that we do because we're committed to doing so. We have stated unequivocally by way of ratifying instruments in terms of subjecting ourselves to certain human rights documents, subjecting ourselves to certain humanitarian international legal documents, that we will incorporate the views of children into our own domestic and foreign policy decisions. So I think reminding states about that is critical, and that's something that we're trying to do that in our society. We have various mechanisms in place in order to bring children into our way of conducting policies. But also we're trying to advocate this internationally. When we talk to refugees, when we talk to other states, we try to communicate that we're not going to find sustainable ways forward unless the viewpoints of children are incorporated into policy decisions. That goes for mediation efforts when we try to mediate, because we're very often involved in various conflict mediations. We always say that we're not going to find a durable way forward, sustainable way forward, unless various marginalized groups, and that unfortunately includes children, are incorporated. So we're trying to lead by example, but there's a lot that we can do better. But I think procedurally, we need to do what we're doing now, bringing children on board, giving children and youth an opportunity to really hold states accountable. So procedurally, I think that's the way forward. And I think materially, it's vital that we don't communicate around this as if we're doing something which is aspirational, which is something that we should be doing out of kindness. No, we should be doing this because it's an internationally legal obligation. If states aren't doing what they should do, you should point your finger at them like you're doing, and point your finger at me because we're not doing enough. And you should say, you guys are not in line with your human rights obligations, your international humanitarian law obligations, and we will hold you accountable. So thank you very much.
Thank you a lot. We are running late, if I am not wrong. Well, regarding now, if you allow me, I turn to Mr. Salah Majid, and the executive director of Harikar NGO, who is working with refugees at grassroots level. So if you allow me, I will ask both Cedra and Naya. You ask your question both, and so you can respond to the two questions. So, Cedra.
So the first question is like from your work on the ground, what are some successful initiatives or programs that have significantly improved the protection, well-being, and rights of child refugees in the local context? How can these successes be replicated or scaled up? And the second question.
The second question is, in your work for child refugee rights at the local level, how do you ensure children's participation, and what challenges do you face, and what more can you do so that children can participate?
Two very important questions, and it's need to give them a full picture, on the situation of children in Iraq. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to stand before you today as the Executive Director for Harikar NGO, based in Kurdistan region of Iraq, and representing the Alliance of Child Protection, Humanitarian Action, and Strategic Partner for the Safe Children in Iraq. I'm eager to share some remarkable achievement and success stories that they extended through our dedicated efforts implementing children protection and psychosocial support activities for protracted crisis of Iraq layered within political instabilities, displacement of refugees and IDPs, repatriation of children from Al-Hol camp, and the most impacted country with the climate crisis, not only in the region but ranked globally. Our focus has been localization, child-led initiatives, community-led protection, legislative work, and specialized MHPSS program in support with technical experts from the Safe Children in country. The efforts of the team in ground have made significant impact within the context of supporting Syrian refugee children, Kafak children, IDPs, and host community. Putting children and caregivers on the driver's seat, and through initiative led by them, we have established a new pledge among caregivers, a connection that had played an essential role in piloting in a new era of positive parenting. This transformation has been characterized by caregiver gaining profound insights into the child rights, improving their parenting skills. A significant reduction in the use of punishment and violence within families. Youth advocate from the adolescents clubs with a specialized common approach by Save the Children. On social accountability, mobilize the community and governments to form legislative and common framework protecting children at home and in the extended community. A part of our community to addressing protection concerns, we have developed a comprehensive long-term plan that recognizes the complex dynamic of the Iraqi situation, particularly protection risk induced by displacement due to climate changes and conflict. This plan ensures the thorough coverage of essential concern through protection interventions at various multi-sectoral levels. In navigating these challenges, Nexus component we have dedicated to offering child protection services and raising awareness on sensitive issues such as GBV. I have more to say.
No, but if you can make it short, because...
Just 2 minutes.
You.
Another 2 minutes, thank you.
No more.
2 minutes. Yeah, because, I would like to give the... Okay. Again, my answer for the second question, I would like to share with you the integral role of boys and girls participation playing in the success of our intervention in humanitarian and transition to Nexus. Backstopped by Save the Children in Iraq, Harikar has leveraged the significance of the children leadership and involvement in humanitarian development agenda in Kurdistan region and in Iraq in general. This strategic approach, guided by my leadership, emphasizes the active engagement of the community youth by fostering an environment that values and incorporated their perspective. We empower the young generation and enhance the overall impact and sustainability of our initiative. SCI in Harikar has piloted a human-centered and child-centered design which identify the invisible children, listen to them, and prototype which them their own designed activity. Children themselves are the established child and youth club and are empowered to help their service provider accountable, including the government and national and subnational level. The clubs are inclusive to the heart to reach children, including children and disabilities, CAFAC, adolescents, and head of household. Recognize this, the diverse need of children, we adapt our activity to be inclusive for children and disability whenever possible. From here, I echo many of the actors in Iraq. Iraq still hosts 1.2 million IDPs and more than 300,000 refugees from Syria, 3.5 million of children out of school now, 25% of children lacking civil documentations. Iraq needs to continue responding to them through generous donor, although we are suffering several funds cut. Okay, I still have another half of minute. Okay.
استسمح
Okay, thank
شكرا
you.
صلاح.
Thank you.
أستاذ صلاح, I know that you have a lot to do, and we know very well what you are doing, and you are doing it in a wonderful manner and in an integrative approach at grassroots level. You are very well known. The problem is also the role of state and all the key stakeholders to make all this at scale up. شكرا واستسمح. I turn very quickly to Christian, and who is a Christian Baobab Youth on the Move, fellow UNICEF. So I give the floor to Cedra, followed by Naya, to ask their question, and I am sure that Christian will make it short and straight to the point as usual. Thank you so much.
Yes, so my first question to Christian is, your journey from being a child refugee to youth representative is very inspiring. Could you share how access to education played a role in shaping your future, and what changes or initiatives would you recommend to ensure schools are more inclusive and children feel safe and protected in school environments?
And the second question is, from your experience of being a child refugee, now a youth representative, what message or advice would you like to share with current child refugees facing similar challenges?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm glad to be part of this set of amazing people. Next time, please let me speak a bit among the very first person. Now, because I feel like I need to make it quick and I had a lot to say. So for your first question, Cedra, when I was in my home country, I had access to education, because now I came to the refugee camp when I was already over 18 years, unlike you, and but I didn't have access to the programs that I wanted because of financial constraint. Obviously, I didn't have enough money to pay for the programs I was interested in. And as you have mentioned, being a refugee is an unfortunate situation, obviously. But when I arrived in the refugee camp in Kenya, in Kakuma refugee camp, I had the opportunity to actually enroll in a program that I wanted, and that's storytelling, filmmaking, and journalism. And that paved my way to coming here today and speaking to you all amazing young people and old folks. Thank you for coming, by the way. And so I feel like accessing education and really having to choose what you have to learn has given me the opportunity and the power to be a storyteller that I am, that I won't show you here on this stage because we don't have enough time. But access to education is actually the most important tool that a refugee can get to be just like a normal person, like everybody else. This is my first time to be out of Africa, and if it was not because of education, I wouldn't have made it here. 5 years ago, I wouldn't say a single word in English. I had to learn through in my refugee camp, and here I am speaking to you in English. I hope you can hear me.
I bet you are speaking better than me.
Thank you so much. So to your second question, I don't recall what is the part of this. So your second question, Cedra. So to what government can do, or
sorry, message or advice would you like to share with current?
no, before that, there is the question about what government and maybe donors can do to make education better and classes a safer place for children. I'll spare you big speeches and tell you an example of what has been working in my refugee camp where I come from. I don't know if people from Poticas are here. No? Okay, thank you. So Poticas has been funding a project that is implemented through FilmAid. You are Poticas?
Poticas, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the great work that you are doing. So FilmAid is my previous employer, and we have been created because the very first barrier that a child faces coming to the refugee camp is language. I was lucky because I was already grown up. I knew what exactly I wanted, so I started by learning English. But a child is in a class first year, and they are 250 of them in one class, and they don't speak any English. So FilmAid is making radio lessons that are in the local languages of these learners. And this has shown a very big impact because now learners are taught by teachers who come from their communities. They have radio lessons in their local languages, and this creates a sense of belonging and I don't know, they feel just happy to learn maths in local languages and sciences, and this creates a little bit of protection for them because now they are facilitated by the teachers from the same communities. So investing more in empowering local teachers and also in maybe availing lessons in local languages that children can actually understand. There are radio lessons. Okay, thank you. There are radio lessons. That means they can bring the lesson even home, and their parents can still teach them. I have one more question from Naya. Please allow me this one.
From your experience,
We cannot get you.
Okay, thank you so much. From my experience of being, what can be done, right? What would I advise to?
Message or advice
to
would you like
other
to
children.
share?
Okay, thank you so much. My advice to children is, I don't know, this is two different things, because I would like to advise children to take advantage of the opportunities that lie ahead of them. I was lucky to take all opportunities to learn English, to read English books, to only watch English movies. That's how I learned. But also, as a young person, I'll advise other young people to, like what Cedra is doing with the children where she comes from. I don't remember because I have to say like a lot of things. So take action, do whatever you think government can do for you at a very small scale, and they maybe leverage it, because if you wait for government to do it for us, it won't be done. So let's start ourselves. Let's do like Cedra is doing, start an initiative that will help other children in your community. If the government doesn't help us, we don't care. We are doing at least how we can, and let them feel ashamed of not supporting us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I think the final word is wonderful, take action and not waiting for governments making them shame by showing that you can make it. So I want just to all of you to thank on behalf of you all this first panel, and we are going to switch very quickly to the second panel.
So we should go? Okay.
So now we are going to switch to the second panel. The intergenerational dialogue will continue between children and 5 state representatives from Greece, Thailand, Switzerland, Colombia, and Turkey, and the representative for Save the Children International will have the opportunity to share quickly and straight to the point their commitment and pledges for children and react to the question of children. Yes, I will.
This spot. Colombia. Yes, here we go.
Okay, thank you. So we start. So I introduce, first Inger Hatching from the CEO of Save the Children International. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Cedra to ask you her first question.
They're coming with the microphone.
Okay, so first question, who was asking? Cedra?
Thank you so much. Yes, so to Ms. Inger, I'll just repeat the question. From your experience working with children around the world and based on what children have said during the consultations, what kind of commitments do you wish states and other actors would make to make things better for children, and why is it important to have a child's rights multi-stakeholder pledge? So what difference would that make, and what else can be done to make sure we are a part of decisions that affect us?
Thank you so much for that question, and thank you for the amazing first panel and for all the rich background you gave us, and also sharing your personal stories. As Save the Children, we are working in over 120 countries in the world, and of course a lot of our work is supporting refugee children. So I do meet refugee children around the world, and I think the stories that you shared with us are very similar to what I hear from other children, so I'm not going to repeat that also in the interest of time. We have heard how incredibly important it is for us to act. We have heard that there are demands from children that we will step up and do our part. But the only thing I would like to add, because we heard the representative from the Norwegian government talking about this as a human rights responsibility, but I really want to stress that children have specific rights in addition to human rights, and that in a situation of having to be as a refugee, children are more vulnerable than any other group, and I think that is really important. You shared with us, and we heard on the film, examples of discrimination, being excluded from basic services. And we also heard, I think it was you, Naya, who was covering what we heard from the consultations. So 4 points that I think just summarize it for me. Keep me safe. Take me seriously. Ensure that I have access to the service that I need and put my needs in the center. And do listen, because I know what I need. So I think those are the four key points that I take away. And as I said, I travel quite extensively myself and meet children. And just a month ago, I went to Colombia and Peru and met refugee children. And actually, one of the girls that we saw in the film, Maria, I spoke to her, and she was sharing with me how challenging it was, even after the journey from Venezuela, to actually be in a position where she had access, where she didn't have access to education, where she didn't have access to basic services. So the reason why we, and many with us, think that we need a child rights multi-stakeholder pledge is that we need to acknowledge that children have unique rights, and that those rights are violated right now. In addition, asylum rights at large are being threatened, protection systems are being weakened, and the principle of solidarity is being questioned globally. So we need to ensure that all of us who are allies in this fight for ensuring children's rights are coming together under one collective pledge. And I think that what it also adds, in addition to acknowledging the specific child rights, It also ensures that we have a holistic approach, because often when we talk about needs of refugees, needs of children, we talk about them need by need, sector by sector, education, health, protection, etc. And this Child Rights Pledge is a holistic pledge. And I'm very glad to see, as you heard already, that we already have 84 and counting pledges behind this. So maybe the final thing on what I think we need from governments. We need governments to ensure that policies and practical solutions that take place have the protection and the rights of children at the center. We need governments to agree to sustained, predictable, multi-year resources to ensure children's inclusion and access to quality child-sensitive services. And thirdly, we need programs supporting refugee children to meaningfully participate at all levels. And we heard that this is the first Global Refugee Forum where we actually have children present. And I'm proud to be one of the organizations who have made this happen. But I think for all of us, we need to ensure that we have even more child participation next year. So keep me safe, take me seriously, ensure that I have access to basic services, and do listen. That is my message.
Thank you, Inger. And I now turn to Dr. Herakles Moskov. I had the pleasure to meet many times and during my visit in Greece, and I can tell you, he has a long title, General Secretary for Vulnerable Persons and so on, but he is a strong, committed man, and I really recognize it, and I also recognize that Greece was one of the first countries really to commit to the Child Rights Pledge. And I know that you are working on under pressure, but really with a strong heart and listening to children and seeing children as parts of solution. So you will have the pleasure to respond to Maxim, who is coming, he is from Ukraine, currently living in Romania. Maxim, please.
Hello.
Hello? Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us what Greece is committing to and how this will help refugee children, including children who have been separated from their parents and families? How is Greece supporting refugee young people to mentor refugee children?
Thank you, Maxim. A very warm welcome to everybody. It is a great honor to be here, and I would like to congratulate the children first and foremost for your sound voices, for your really strong words, and that mean very important to us, because we really want to live up to the expectation and not fail you. It's very important for us as governments, but as also as not just as officials, but as human beings as well. So it is a great pleasure to co-sponsor this side event, and an honor to share with you information on the National Emergency Response Mechanism, which is our pledge to the GRF. It has been the result of our efforts to assist people in need, including obviously children that arrive at our borders, or they are found in the mainland in precarious conditions, in homelessness. So we would like to ensure that no child is left outside a protection framework. This started as a pilot project, but has grown up to be a globally recognized best practice. So over a decade before, Greece, as a first reception country, receives thousands of children seeking refuge in Europe. The year 2019 was a landmark year, because more than 5,000 unaccompanied children were present in our country. At this point, the government took decisive institutional and operational measures to safeguard appropriate reception and protection of all children. In early 2020, a designated authority for the protection of minors has been established in the Ministry of Migration and Asylum, and the core objective was to design a national strategy and, of course, to implement it. Nothing would be possible, obviously, if we were not united with the international community. So the UN and the EU system was with us, as well as several states that we are grateful to them that are supporting us in this project. And of course, last but not least, the Greek civil society. Nothing would be possible without the strong voice and outreach and grassroots organizations that we have at our disposal. So we have considerably raised our capacity for for unaccompanied minors. We have about places for accommodation for about 2,500, about 70 long-term accommodation facilities. These are shelters with 20, 30 kids. We have set rules for child protection, for child-appropriate quality service provision. This is best interest assessment. We have developed protection safeguards for monitoring the situation. We have coordinated a large-scale voluntary relocation program for about 1,500 kids to 13 other countries. And we first and foremost work on social inclusion, education, soft skills, informal education, and the guardianship system, which is a professional parent that will take care of all the needs of the kids in order to have a smooth transition to adulthood. This includes mental health issues, but also the overall ideology here is that they are not just suffering from trauma as refugees, they are also impeccable survivors. They are very skilled children that can make a miracle. So resilience is what we want to take out of this experience and not just offer a philanthropic stance in terms of trauma, which is also a case that we are taking very seriously. So we have abolished a very controversial measure that was the so-called protective custody, and especially for kids that were living in precarious conditions and homelessness. So in order to address their needs, we have a structure that guarantees their protection via referring them to emergency accommodation facilities and then long-term accommodation facilities. This is the National Emergency Response Mechanism for all minors in need of immediate protection, and accommodation obviously is our priority, and we do that in collaboration with the UNHCR, IOM, the European Commission, the NGOs, and other states like Switzerland and Denmark before. So the component of our response mechanism is first a 24/7 tracing hotline. We have qualified interpreters and experts there. We have information desks and mobile units in the regions of Athens and Thessaloniki, and we have emergency accommodation facilities. We have responded to the ongoing crisis in Ukraine, so the mechanism has in place comprehensive procedures for the immediate identification, registration, and best interest assessment of separated and unaccompanied kids from Ukraine. To conclude, I would like to reiterate that our country's effort and commitment in upholding children's rights and strengthening its child protection framework is strong, and the Global Refugee Forum in this event is an excellent opportunity to explore possibilities for further enhancing the transnational safety net for children on the move and establish strategic synergies to accomplish that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heracles, and I am sorry to be, making you going fast. And now I turn to Thailand, that I just came from, and we have here the pleasure to have Mrs. Ekaroit. She, sorry for the pronunciation, Pantifa, Deputy Permanent Secretary for Foreign Affairs. And I just want really to congratulate, Thailand for its strong commitment currently and all the important steps that you are taking regarding, education, care, withdrawing the your reservation regarding the Article 22 of the CRC, regarding also, and I saw it, regarding, ending statelessness and also ending deprivation of liberty. So for you, Excellency, the question will be asked by Sofia, Ukrainian girl living in Romania. Sofia, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming here, for being here. And I'd like to ask the question for Mrs. Ekarahid. I'm so sorry for for wrong pronunciation. And the question is, can you explain to us what commitments Thailand is making, and how do you think this will improve the lives of refugee children? Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sophia, for the question. First of all, I'm not sure whether all of you know where Thailand is in the map, in the world map. We are a country in Southeast Asia, and we have, for more than 5 decades, provide refuge and humanitarian assistance to several groups of people, not just from our neighboring countries, but also from other countries in the world. And we try to do more and better although we are not a rich country, we are still a developing country. And we are proud to announce that we have announced that we are making 3 more pledges to improve the situation of forcibly displaced children in our country. First is that we will review and improve the use of alternatives to detention to ensure its inclusive and appropriate application to various groups of displaced children. Taking into account the best interests of the child, we will also promote more extensive use of community-based care, dedicate more resources to this, and also enhance cooperation between government agencies, private sector, and civil society to effectively implement this pledge. Second, we will enhance access to education and skills development, because we heard that education is very important, but education alone is not enough. Skills development is also very important. And we intend to enhance for these displaced children through cooperation with private sector and the civil society. And we will review existing financial support schemes for education and skills development for stateless children who are eligible for status development process. And third, this is very important, we will withdraw our reservation to Article 22 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Actually, we have been providing protection and humanitarian assistance to displaced children in line before, but in the past, we used to have reservation that it has to be in line with our national laws, regulations, and policies. But we have withdrawn this reservation. It means that we do not only restrict to our national laws and regulations. So we hope to do more and better to protect the rights of children in line with international human rights norms, especially the CRC. And very important, we give importance to education. We have been practicing education for all policy since 2015, which allows all children, including stateless, forcibly displaced, and migrant children, to access basic education in public schools free of charge. And we have to admit that in the implementation, there may have been gaps that still exist in certain pockets of population. But we have been enduring to address these gaps. And we also consider providing additional financial support to allow these children to continue their secondary and tertiary education. And we believe that education and skills development are essential to enhance resilience and self-reliance of these children. For your information, we have also been implementing alternatives to detention for 5 years already, with more than 500 children and over 100 parents benefiting from this policy. They have been taken care in government shelters instead of having to stay in immigration detention centers. And when we work, we also have a multidisciplinary working group, which includes representatives from relevant government agencies, UNHCR, IOM, and UNICEF, that was established to coordinate, develop individual care plan, and harmonize implementation. And we are also doing more to better respond to the best interests of the child. So this is, in short, what I would like to say, but very important. We would like to say that we need to enhance engagement and partnership with stakeholders across the society. A whole of government and whole of society approach lies at the heart of all our pledges at the GRF. And we look forward to collaborating and receiving support from partners both at the local and global levels. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Ekaroit, and I hope I pronounce it well. And thank you for all this commitment and engagement. And I turn very, very quickly to Mrs. Christine Schreiner-Bergener, j'espère que je prononce bien, from Switzerland. And you have a question from Sofia.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'd like to ask the question. The majority of refugees, children, and families are hosted in a few countries. What has Switzerland committed to, and what more can states do together with other actors and children to assist countries hosting large numbers of refugees? So that children can access comprehensive support such as education, protection, healthcare, mental health care, social protection. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Very good question. I think what we already heard at the last panel discussion, we have to do more on the ground to avoid that people have to flee. That's the first thing, and there Switzerland is very engaged through our good offices that we help to find solutions in conflict situation. But as I saw also personally before I joined the Ministry of Justice in Switzerland 2 years ago, I was the special envoy of the UN for Myanmar, and I went regularly to Cox's Bazar, to the biggest camp of the world with 1 million of Rohingyas. And I saw how important it is that children have access to education. And that is what we also have a responsibility, not only in our country. Sometimes what I see now in the last 2 years, that we see a little bit our garden. The fences are very close to us, but we have to see where the conflicts are and where the people have to flee, that we can also help the people on the ground and also to help that people have a wealthy situation, that they don't need to flee. Also from conflict areas. But when they are coming to Switzerland, it's already, in my view, too late, because then they had to flee, but then we have a responsibility that they feel safe, especially the children, and that they have access to education, and that they can be integrated as quickly as possible, that they don't feel as refugees, that they feel as part of our society. And that's the reason we already, when they are coming to our centers where we receive the refugees in the beginning, we have 6 centers in Switzerland where the procedure of the asylum seekers are happening. Then we give already there school and education. So we have 22 premises in Switzerland normally. After the war in Ukraine, we have now 48. And in each we have a classroom for small kids, but also for elder children. And there we teach them, and especially we teach them in one of our 4 languages we have in Switzerland, that they are integrated very quickly. We also, afterwards, when they get asylum in Switzerland, then they can live in one of our cantons. And then they go to a public school and are included in our society as quickly as possible. If they are older than like 15, 16, we invented a pre-apprenticeship. So they can go for 1 year for an apprenticeship, and if they like it and if they have knowledge in the language, then they can finish the apprenticeship. What we also made now with the Ukraine people, we said that we hope that they can go back once when the war is over. But if they start now an apprenticeship, which goes 2, 3, 4 years, they can stay in Switzerland and finish the apprenticeship before they go back. So we want really that children have a future, that if they go back once, that they have a good education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Christine Schraner, and also highlighting one point that I think it's important, that was highlighted by Gillian Triggs, it's the multilateralism, and the role of the multilateralism is in preventing, war and also in ceasefire. And unfortunately, we are seeing a big failure regarding, multilateralism really to push. And what is going in Gaza, among others, that I think that was highlighted by also Norway, that states have to be more and more accountable. We are facing and violation of human rights and violation of international law, and children are paying a huge tribute. So just I want to remind that and to really push also on that. So now I turn to Mrs. Elizabeth Taylor J. I hope I pronounce it well, Vice Ministry, for Multilateral Affairs of Colombia. I had the pleasure to meet in New York, and you are a country who is hosting a large number of IDPs and also Venezuelan, people, and you are doing a lot in integrating them. And we need, and another point that I want to highlight also, just you are going also to host the high-level ministerial conference in Bogota to end all forms of violence against children, including, children displaced, refugees, migrants, and so on. And for you, you have a question from Maxime.
Thank you so much. Could you explain Colombia's plans for supporting and providing opportunities for refugee children in Colombia? How is Colombia planning to promote the protection and participation of forcibly displaced children in its role as a global leader on the protection of children?
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Is it possible for you all to have some translation or not to Spanish? Or no, you don't? I think, huh? You don't have a device, no? Here. Sorry, I don't want to hold up the time here. Okay, all right. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias por la pregunta y gracias, doctor Nahat y toda la institucionalidad aquí. En efecto, digamos, para Colombia es particularmente compleja la situación y pues ya fue mencionado, somos y fuimos en algún momento el primer país con la mayor cantidad de desplazados internos por el largo conflicto armado que hemos experimentado ya por más de 6 décadas. Lo otro es que también, y a raíz, digamos, del rompimiento de las relaciones diplomáticas, digamos, hace unos años con Venezuela, pasamos de solo tener, digamos, ni siquiera 3.000 migrantes provenientes, por ejemplo, de este país, a un número exponencial que creció entre 2017 a 2023 de casi 3 millones de personas que llegaron y que todavía, digamos, hay una cantidad de personas que están todavía migrando, o hay flujos migratorios a través de nuestro país. Por otro lado, también somos considerados uno de los países más desiguales de América Latina y el Caribe. Entonces, como se darán cuenta, son capas encima de capas. Sin embargo, esto no es una excusa, y no es una excusa en este momento tampoco del gobierno del presidente Gustavo Petro y la vicepresidenta Francia Márquez, a quienes han tenido la oportunidad algunos de conocer en estos días, para que no hagamos los esfuerzos necesarios para poder cambiar esta situación. Entonces se crea el nuevo Ministerio de la Igualdad en Colombia, que no existía, bajo el liderazgo de nuestra vicepresidenta, y que va a tener una serie también, digamos, de políticas sociales y públicas para poder hacer este abordaje. Lo otro es decirles que se creó digamos, un estatuto de protección temporal en nuestro país que le da además la oportunidad a los migrantes venezolanos que llegaron a nuestro país de poder disfrutar, digamos, de todos los diferentes servicios y los que están registrados en el sistema, más de 1.800.000 personas, cuentan, digamos, con todas las garantías de protección social en materia de educación, etcétera, etcétera. Seguramente el caso del que se refería, digamos, la líder de Save the Children, es uno de esos casos que no, digamos, no llegaron a registrarse en el sistema, pero no es que el país no esté dando las garantías para la protección. Lo otro es el tema de la condición de refugiado solo como para decirles que digamos, en las 33.000 y pico de solicitudes de refugio que hemos recibido en estos últimos 6 años, ya voy a terminar, denme un minutico más, solo 1.400 de estas, un poquito más de 1.400 de estas personas cumplían con las condiciones de refugio. Lo que quiere decir es que lo que tenemos en Colombia es un fenómeno de flujos migratorios con fines económicos, personas que están yendo a algunos lugares, algunos ya se quedaron en Colombia, otros siguen para poder buscar mejores oportunidades laborales. Rápidamente, el año pasado, hace un año, nos adherimos a la declaración de las escuelas seguras. Ya tenemos nuestro primer plan de acción que vamos a trabajar y eso es tanto para asegurar, o sea, tener la certeza para tanto nuestros nacionales como los refugiados y los que están digamos, bajo el estatuto temporal en nuestro país. Lo otro es que diseñamos otra serie de estrategias, pero lo más importante es que hace menos de un mes restablecimos relaciones con Venezuela. Hace un año, ¿sí? Entonces estamos trabajando también con el país para poder mejorar la situación de todos los migrantes, pero el 20 de noviembre suscribimos un memorando de entendimiento con Venezuela para asegurar la protección y retorno seguro de niños, niñas y adolescentes que no están acompañados por sus padres. ¿Sí? Y tenemos en nuestro sistema de protección más de 3.211 niños y niñas y hemos priorizado 647 de estos para poder, digamos, retornar a unas familias o que algunas familias los acojan. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Vice Minister. And I turn very, very quickly to Mrs. Ayşegül Yildirim Kara from Turkey, and the question will be asked by Naya.
Hi, I have a question for Ms. Ayşegül Yildirim Kara. I tried to pronounce it, but this is a very important question to me because I have visited Turkey many times, and I have friends there who express their feelings about feeling socially unsafe and not feel protected. So this is a question. Turkey is one of the biggest refugee hosting countries, and children make a big part of the refugee population. Pledges can make a big difference to children. Can you share any specific commitments to ensure that children like me can access school, social protection, and feel safe?
Thank you for your question, Naya. Representing the Ministry of Family and Social Services of Turkey, as the Director General of Child Services, it is a privilege to be here to share our country's services and pledges towards child protection policy with a focus on child rights. Allow me to extend my sincerest greetings with deep respect. As Turkey, we consider children as the trust of our future to the day we live in. And accordingly, we approach their development and education with this perspective. Our commitment to child protection is shaped by a unifying, comprehensive, and rights-based national strategy, the cornerstone of our endeavors. There are 3.2 million Syrians under temporary protection in Turkey, half of whom are children. In our country, the principle of the child's best interest is taken into consideration in all laws and services for children without discrimination. We are trying to provide security services for children who came to our country. We are extremely sensitive in this issue for children. We know they are very important for us. We have taken all the precautions, and if there are any problems, we sincerely address them. We are serious about this matter. This is a policy that is both important in the context of children's rights. In order to protect and improve the welfare of children under temporary protection in our country until 2026, we commit to promote the enrollment of children in school and the social cohesion of families through awareness raising activities for at least 4,500 children and 2,000 families. To refer 225,000 children to social protection services and to provide conditional cash transfer for 800,000 children to support their education. Of course, our work as a country is not limited to these pledges. Turkey will continue its endeavors with the principle of empowerment. There is no difference between Turkish children and foreign children. Children who come to our country through irregular migration and identified as unaccompanied minor are taken under the protection and care of our ministry within the scope of the child protection law. We also have specialized child care organizations for unaccompanied children across the country. These organizations will also be presented as an example of good practice in the afternoon. I recommend to you follow. We also have preventive mechanism to protect children from various risks. With the children's safe teams established within our ministry, we provide detection, evaluation, and guidance services for children and their families who are considered to be socioeconomically disadvantaged and in different risk groups, especially in rural areas. In this context, identifying and tracking refugee children is also very important to us. All parties must take an action now to save all civilians from this human tragedy in Palestine as soon as possible, especially children who are deprived of their right to education, health, and most importantly, their right to live. Before I conclude my remarks, I wish a world where children will never have to live in an environment of war and conflict. I greet you all with respect. Thank you.
Thank you a lot. I know that we are running late, but it's the first time that we have children on board, so I hope that you are patient. And regarding, we are going to switch to the last part. For the panelists, I will be happy to have you sitting here, but I know that some people have to leave, but it will be useful to stay here. So without further ado, I have in my agenda, and I am following, I am trying to follow, regarding, the session of pledge. And I will start by a pledge from Paisley, from USA, because she required it Paisley, you have the floor, please.
My name is Paisley. I'm 10 years old from the USA. I run an NGO called Paisley's Pals. After learning about refugees crisis as a preschooler, I became determined to take action. I created a flexible, flat-pack classroom designed to let children take charge of the classroom design. In 2019, I pledged to bring 6 pop-up classrooms to a refugee hosting country, and I'm proud to say that I nearly doubled my commitment, and 10 pop-up classrooms have been changing lives in Uganda for the past 2 years. I may be young, but I am mighty, and I am determined to fight for my refugee friends. I stand here today to pledge to deploy 50 Shine boxes and commit to training refugee-led organizations in the many ways a Shine box can let refugee children take charge of the classroom design. I may not have all the answers yet, but I want to be part of the solution, and I challenge each and every adult here to do more. Commit to more, demand more. My refugee friends are counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we have, I will request, from the floor. I have a list. Uruguay. Sorry. I have a list of countries who want to make pledge. Uruguay.
Moderator. Uruguay would like to thank the organizers, UNHCR, the Initiative for Child Rights in the Global Compacts, and the governments of Greece and Norway as co-sponsor, and especially the children that are here today for sharing with us their personal stories and for such powerful message they gave us. Since 1970, Uruguay has been a state party to the Convention and Protocol relating to the status of refugees. It has also ratified most of the universal and regional human rights instruments that recognize the human right to asylum. In the context of refugee children, Uruguay undertakes to support and promote the training of officials involved in the reception and care of undocumented foreign children and adolescents, applying the legal regulations. Uruguay also commits to continue developing mechanisms for the participation of children and adolescents, especially the Uruguayan Institute for Children and Adolescents Participation Program, PROPIA, and the Advisory and Consultative Council, CAC, at national and departmental level as way of promoting knowledge and exercise of the right to participation of children and adolescents. I thank you.
Thank you so much. And if I am not wrong, we have Austria. Just I remind you, when you are going to pledge, you are going to be monitored, so you will have to implement.
Thank you very much for that reminder. Can you hear me? Is it on? Okay. Thank you very much. I'll try to be very quick. And thank you very much also to our young participants for these strong messages. I think it was really an excellent reminder. And the pledge I am referring to, obviously, as you are right, we are not doing enough. And it's just to state what we are trying to do and where we are trying to make a contribution. Also, as incoming vice chair of the UNICEF Executive Board in New York, so we are trying to push on different levels. This one is on the multilateral side, and the one I would like to mention is a pledge where we are trying to work with UNICEF also in Ukraine and Moldova, especially on children affected by the war of aggression in Ukraine. So very much also happy to see our young participants from Ukraine here. Happy to see you. What we are trying to achieve with the pledge is to support over 60,000 children and their families affected by the war. And I think one of the things that were also mentioned very clearly were basic services, so mental health, psychosocial support, to strengthen the services there, to strengthen family reunification, making sure that families can stay together, and the Blue Dot Network also managed by UNICEF. And as a third point I wanted to underline, we have talked a lot about the law and the norms, and I think also working on social norms and making sure that we can actually strengthen and change these norms towards societies where children and their needs are at the center. This is something which we think needs to be a part of this holistic approach. So thank you very much. And we look forward to being monitored on that.
You will be. Hani Mansourian, on behalf, your long title, the Allies for Child Protection in Humanitarian Action. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Majid. So, first of all, to thank the Child Rights Initiative for really centering children in this GRF, which is a big change from the previous one, and the young participants. As we heard, interestingly, I'm going to announce two pledges, but interestingly, both of them speak to the points that our young participants mentioned. One is with our counterpart, Interagency Network for Education in Emergencies, and Dean Brooks is here. And it really highlights the importance of education and child protection going hand in hand. There is no education without protection, and there is no protection without education. I won't go into the details because of lack of time, but there are 4 specific actions under the pledge, and I encourage you to read that. The second pledge is with the global initiative to support parents, and it speaks to Cedra's very good point about how a lot of her worries was about her parents and the role that parents play in ensuring that children who are inevitably going through adversities are feeling safe. And this pledge specifically commits to scaling up parenting programs in refugee contexts and supporting governments with policies and programs to be able to better support parents so they can play their protective role. Again, I won't go into details, and I will hand back to you. Thank you.
Mrs. Sorcha O'Callaghan, the Humanitarian Policy Group.
I'm really delighted to add our voice to the pledge today, and having heard you speaking, I'm even more delighted. So thank you so much for coming, but also thank you so much to the organisers for including voices of children and youth. Where I come from, a leading global affairs think tank called ODI, and we want to use our platform, we want to use our analysis, we want to use our expertise to further solutions for people on the move. And that's for children, for youth, for adolescents and adults and their communities affected by displacement. So specifically what we're going to do is that we're going to use our cross-disciplinary programs. We work on climate, we work on education, we work on social protection, we work on humanitarian issues. And we'll use those programs and the other platforms available to us. We're going to take at least 15 different forms of research and events and convening to provide evidence that supports social protection, economic inclusion and well-being of children and their families and communities affected by displacement. We've all seen how amazing it's been to hear from you today, and our work always centres the voices and perspectives of people on the move, and we doubly commit to doing that, having heard you today. Thank you.
Short and straight to the point, please.
Yes. As part of the initiative for child's rights, I would like to emphasize Plan International's unwavering commitment to the Child's Rights Pledge while responding to the different needs of children and young people based on their age, gender, and diverse characteristics. We also acknowledge the severe consequences of child marriage for the physical, emotional, and educational well-being of girls. And that's why we are pledging our contribution to the Child's Rights Pledge in the realm of protection to provide targeted technical support, build capacity, and develop essential resources that prioritize child marriage prevention in planning and assessment. Additionally, we, Plan International, pledge to support the right to quality, inclusive, and gender-responsive education for refugees and displaced children. This includes, of course, providing small grants for youth-led organizations advancing gender transformative education initiatives in displacement. And last but not least, we emphasize the crucial role of youth participation. You have made this Global Refugee Forum very important, very exciting and historic, so we commit to that. And lastly, I have the honor of leading Plan in Colombia. We are working there very strongly to finish the war and to really have peace. So my commitment personally here to continue working so that they have no more children displaced by war and conflict. Thank you.
World Vision.
Thank you. I'm also very energized, especially after having heard the young people speak today. And as World Vision International, we are committed to protecting children in all refugee settings and extend child protection services and children empowerment, particularly in Rohingya and Ukraine responses. We are also committed to integration of education in child protection for refugee as well as host communities. And lastly, but certainly not least, we are leading commitment for faith-sensitive mental health and psychosocial support for and with refugees. So thank you so much for being such powerful advocates. World Vision International is re-energized, and we're going to continue to work with all of you and all partners. Thank you.
Thank you. And we achieved the list of pledge, and I hope that all these pledge will be really concretely translated. And it's the end of the session. But I am not going to end it without giving the floor and to all the children who are here, and you already listened. What are your key takeaways? What you want to tell to people after you heard a lot about their pledge? So the floor is yours in the order you want. Who want to start?
Okay, I can start. I firstly want to thank everyone for coming here, for listening to us, for valuing youth voices, and I want to thank the organizers for also placing youth voices at the forefront of these very important issues. And I want to say, although I want to stay positive, I do want to say that this is only the start and that we have so much more to do to include youth voices, and that in the upcoming Global Refugee Forum and the upcoming forums that happen and the events, I do want to look around and I want to see people like me. I want to see youth that are sitting in the audience, that are displayed on the stage and that are speaking and that I can connect to. And I really hope that this can happen and that this event and this end of the event is not only impactful in the moment, but that you can take it with you on the long run and that you can keep referring back to it and know that we do need more forum spaces for youth voices and that we do need to have youth and children begin to become partners of adults in decision-making spaces and not just people who you hear from and then forget, but we do want to kind of be on the same level because we have so many things to offer. But thank you so much, and I do want to highlight that I have a very great support system that got me here, who value children, who value youth. I want to highlight Alexandria Bohemier over there, and then my dad as well, and Enzo, and all of the people from Plan International. So thank you so much.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much for coming here. It's so important for me, you to be here, because I'm a little bit nervous, you know. That's my first time for such a global event, and everything is so exciting. Everything is so like great. I love this so much. Your company, everything. So I can start. My name is Sofia. I'm 14 and I'm from Ukraine, from Kharkiv city. Now I'm here as a part of the delegation of the Initiative for Child Rights in the Global Compact. Building a strong network of child refugees from across the globe is one way to make sure the voices of children heard. So we are not standing at the same place, and we are making progress. The pledge you gave not just to me, but to for all the refugee children around the world. This responsibility is on you. By listening to the child refugees, you can change your mindsets, attitudes towards us, and behaviors. We don't need your words, we need your actions. So that things do not just stay as they are now. They will be different. You will act on what we say. We expect you to do something, anything except do nothing. So the progress and results may not be in a day, not in a week, not in a month, but in a year or so. And it's important that you, as governments, as leaders, make results. The refugee boy from Iraq says, "We have passed a difficult road. When I think of the road from Iraq to Bosnia, it's very painful. We were hungry. If someone had asked me, I would have given every child something to eat." We need more movements that support child refugees and more clear, accurate, and accessible information. Better access to quality health services and mental health provision guarantee healthy lives and safer futures. How are you going to change the way refugee children are treated? How are you going to make progress? That's a question to all the governments, to all the leaders, and yeah, I hope that our voices, our words will be heard. Thank you so much for attention.
Okay, I am Maxim. I am 16 years old, and I want to go home because I like my capital. Wait. Sorry, I am nervous. I love my country. No capital. Be loyal to us. By that I mean treat us with sensitive care. Try to understand where we have come from, the expenses we carry. Help us to learn the language so that it is not a barrier. Provide us with opportunities to go to school, to go to uni, to learn new skills, to get a job, so we can earn money, possible for our families, not dependent in our parents who are also struggling with securing work. When I apply for jobs, I'm told I have to be 18, but I need to work now. I'm denied it the opportunity to work. Why can't the age be lowered to 16 at least? Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. I'm the last person, and I am very happy that you're all here fighting for our rights. Thank you all for coming here, and I am very proud of me and the other children who participated and explained their needs, because I expect everyone here, and I urge everyone here, to also contribute to our needs. So this event shows the importance of youth participation. I definitely think, and I think we have all convinced you here, that we do not participate enough. We can definitely speak up for our rights. We have a voice, and we would love to help. We would love to contribute. We want to affect the decisions that affect our lives. And I'd love for you to go home and keep repeating this session in your mind of how important it is to include youth for decisions that affect our lives. And even in your own country, try to find youth, try to find children, and actually you will be surprised of how different our needs are than you might think. Thank you all for coming here, and I hope you have a nice day.
Don't be. Mais
I am not going to summarize. I just want to tell you many thanks, but also to the adults who are here. It's not an exhibit show. They have to be part of the process since the beginning, and you are accountable. They are tired, and I am tired, of many papers, pledges, commitment, and so on, without delivery. And I think we are speaking about lives, about creativity, innovation. They have to be on board. And my God, if you are not listening, and it's a pity that it's a parallel event and it's not in the plenary session. So this is our challenge for next year.